City Manager Brown has arrived and may I ask you to come on up, sir?
Anywhere in particular?
Yeah. How about right up here? And I think you know the drill, and I'll just brief remarks, and then we've got the fisheye camera here. So kind of jockey between the Zoom folks, of which we have 13, and give us a room. I'm not going to give a whole lot of introduction of Marlon. I've come to know you, I think, in the last 5 years, and I think
It seems like 20 years.
people at this table will know that I attend a lot of city-related meetings, and I can tell you, everyone I go to, I gain a new appreciation for what a big job Marlon has, working for the 5 commissioners, managing the whole city staff, and dealing with these neighborhoods. So it's been a year since you've been with us. Maybe we can make this a yearly tradition in February on Groundhog Day.
Only if I can see my shadow.
We'll see if we have more winter or not. But without further ado, Marlon, and our customary practice is asking you to speak for 15 minutes or so, and then the majority of time with questions. So take it away, sir.
You want me to stand or?
You, whichever you feel more comfortable with.
Let me stand so everyone can see me here and there as well. All right, so again, David and everyone, thanks again for having me back. I think by having me back, that means I probably did something good the first time around, else I probably would not have been invited back. And by the way, you know, again, thanks for the invitation to your annual holiday event. That's always, you know, one of the top events that I try to attend every time, you know, and it's right here in this, the same location. David had asked me to speak on a couple of things, but I'm going to veer off a little bit because a lot of the things that he asked me to speak on, things like attainable housing, you know, also, you know, dealing like with the One Park, you know, situation, that's the Quay Blocks 1 and 9 project. A lot of people know what's going on there already, but, you know, one of the things that I have done with the, you know, we have 2 of the charter officials. I am one of the 3, the city auditor and clerk and the city attorney are the 2 charter officials. There are a number of items that the commission over my 2 years as city manager have asked us to look into that we've never really had the time to get into. So what I did, I recently developed a list of items that I shared with the commission, sort of our to-do list that we have not really gotten around to. And I want to share that with you all because a lot of it pertains to the downtown Rosemary district and the environments. So let me kind of quickly go through that, and then, you know, again, you know, David gave me 2 hours, and because I actually, you know, shared this recently with the Lough Residents Association, and when they saw the magnitude of things that we still have to do, they were, you know, kind of surprised. And a lot of you all will know some of these things, and you're probably wondering, what happened to that item? So kind of quickly going through that, Bobby Jones, everyone knows what's going on at Bobby Jones. We are doing 27 holes. We have about just about 150 acres in green space as a conservation easement, a nature park. We have engaged in developing a master plan that will identify the elements to go into that nature park. And then we have a partnership with the Conservation Foundation of Sarasota County to kind of fundraise for the elements that will go into that nature park. We anticipate that Bobby Jones Golf Course will be completed, hopefully by the fall of this year. If you are ever interested in taking a look at some of the drone shots that we've done recently, you would see that it's actually becoming a golf course. It's green, you know, green space, and the tee boxes and everything have been solid, and it's looking really, really good. So we anticipate hopefully by the fall, Bobby Jones will be open for someone to take the first, you know, shot, and hopefully you will fix your divots and don't leave holes in it. Someone put up their hand that they want to be one of the first. Noise. How many people think there's a noise problem downtown? Don't show your hands. The commission has been asking us about that, myself, the city attorney, a number of occasions, where we are with the noise ordinance, whether it's vehicles that are blasting, their music, or they have loud mufflers, leaf blowers early in the morning, and everything from restaurants that open up their garage doors and blast music is something that we have to address. So we're hoping that we can address noise sometime, after the spring, and the city attorney has that on his to-do list. And again, it's decibel levels. How do you measure a noise? One condo association residents came to us recently and said, look, we're okay with downtown. We've moved downtown. We understand there's going to be noise and vibrancy, etc. But the bass, how do you measure bass? And so we're looking at different elements. We're looking at how different cities may have addressed that issue and try to come to some kind of resolution on that. The Sarasota Performing Arts Center, I'm not going to touch that. It's either you're for, you're against, or you're somewhere in the middle. But we're working towards getting the information to the commission that they would need to make an informed decision about how we proceed with this new Performing Arts Center. Remember, the commission has already made the decision to move forward with it, so it's not a question of not doing it. We'll come back to them with the costs, all of the elements, financial plan, operations plan, business plan, how it intends to make money or not make money, and then they can make an informed decision moving forward. The Van Wezel, just to be on record, Marlon Brown is not a proponent of tearing down the Van Wezel. Okay? I can say that 500 times, sing it from the rooftop, sing it from the mountaintop. I don't know how many times I've said it in front of the city commission. I don't know how many times I've said it to anyone who would listen. Marlon Brown is not a proponent of tearing down the Van Wezel. If you look at the Bay Park Master Plan, the Van Wezel is still there. It is part of the master plan. So our intent is to seek what we call a Blue Ribbon Committee and determine the reduce possibilities of the Van Wezel, including its financial sustainability, how it's going to be operated, who it's going to be operated by, so on and so forth. Will the Van Wezel look like it is today? I don't know. It may not look the way it looks, but it will be reused in some way, form, or fashion. Thanks to Ken Sheeling. Ken Sheeling has been helping us with individuals who would like to tour and see the bowels of what it looks like underneath. Again, what you see outside is, the icing, the aesthetics, how we make it look good. But if you want to get a tour of what the inside looks like, what the elements of the dressing room so on, we welcome that, and we will continue the tours once our season ends. Right now, I just left a meeting, sorry to be late, of discussion with the players. Again, I'm looking for a downtown location. We have offered them the Paid Park Auditorium. So we're in negotiations with them right now in terms of the use of the Paid Park Auditorium as possibly the permanent home. I think that is going very well. They're developing what they call a term sheet that has the elements of what they would like to see in terms of a lease, how long, uses, etc., parking, and that will be brought back to the commission, and then they will either direct us to negotiate with them for a lease or not. Again, as many of you know, anything more than 10 years requires a supermajority vote of the commission. That's 4 of the commissioners. So any lease more than 10 years requires a supermajority vote of the commission. I'm not going to get into Sarasota High School. They want to build 4 tennis courts open to the public at Paid Park, and that's the downtown. So again, those of you who are tennis players, if for some reason the Paid Park tennis courts, the clay courts are full, you will have use of those 4 courts that is being built by the school board on Paid Park, open to the public, except in the evening times when Sarasota High School will be using those tennis courts for their use. Affordable housing, attainable housing, whichever name you want to use. Right now, we're in the middle of developing the zoning text amendments. But again, first we want to hear from the public. We had our first town hall meeting a couple of weeks ago. Good input. We're focusing on the downtown only right now. As you know, the commission gave the green light for bonus density of up to 4 times the 50 units per acre or 25 units per acre in the downtown zone. So again, we're on the listening tour right now, had a first town hall. Next one is coming up on March 1st, and then we'll go to work on developing the CTAs only for the downtown. Downtown is easy. We're not changing the zoning in the downtown. We're not changing any elements of the downtown other than the density bonus. No height, no changes. So anyone who says, city's talking about height, we're not talking about height. I want to go on the record, we're not talking about height. You know, somebody will go somewhere and say, yeah, let's talk about height. Okay. Bars, restaurants, and nightclubs. How many of you know that Duval's restaurant is a nightclub? How many of you remember back in the 70s a nightclub with a disco ball in the middle and you dance? And, you know, does Duval's resemble that? So again, we have to go back, take a look at our bars, restaurants, and nightclubs, define them properly, and then make some zoning changes to make sure that we regulate them accordingly. And so that's one of the tasks that we have this year that we really want to get done together with the noise, so we know a nightclub, yeah, expect noise. You're not going to have your doors open, blasting your music to get, you know, people to come in. You know, you'll have some elements of regulation in that and decibel level. So bars, restaurants, nightclubs, outdoor restaurants as well, because they have stages or music or live music. All of those we're going to try to regulate. Again, we're not trying to kill downtown in terms of its vibrancy, but obviously there are individuals who live downtown. Many of you live downtown. We want to make sure that there's some also peaceful enjoyment of what you invested in downtown. Special events and permits, special events permits. Again, get a lot of, you know, complaints about special events and, you know, what time should they end and how, you know, how much decibels should they have and how many people are allowed. And so we want to take a look at special events and how we issue special events permits, what really determines a special event permit rather than a usage permit. Special events permits, we approve. Usage permits, they're more annual permits, kind of long-term temporary use like the farmers market. They have a usage permit. They don't have a special events permit because they come every Saturday. It's temporary, and there are certain elements of that that they require to fulfill as part of the farmers market and the usage permit. I'm not going to touch on Sarasota public art master plan. How many of you have been to City Hall lately? All right. If you walk into City Hall, you'll think it's some kind of curated art space, art center. Mary Davis Wallace, who's one of our newest employees, been with us for about 2 years now, is the individual who is developing what we call our public art master plan. And she's done a very good job of really understanding what the community needs are in terms of public art, working with the development community, art community, and really putting an element of art together. Our first, foray into that was turning City Hall and, getting some loaned pieces about the circus. And if you walk into City Hall, we've repainted, we've done lighting, and you think that you're in an art center with all of the pieces that are hanging on the City Hall wall. And so I will, encourage many of you, if you are into art, if you're into the circus, visit us. We are charged, open to the public, just don't touch the art, okay? Quick blocks 1 and 9, that was on Mr. Lough's list, which is one park. The commission directed staff to allow them to move forward with what we call their development amendments. There are different elements to what they're trying to do. One is an amendment to the development agreement to remove the ability for a major revision to what they call the GDP, which is their master plan, to remove a section of that precludes the building of a structure over what they call quick commons or the public easement. And so the city had come up with a proposal where all elements of what they're proposing, the development agreement, the site plan, and also there was one more piece, a revision to the general development plan, will all go to the planning board as one piece, so they, so everyone has of what they're planning to do. The applicant only wanted the development agreement, so as according to them, not to confuse the issue, and so the commission agreed with the applicant and directed staff to just only have the development agreement move forward at this time. Now, all elements will have to go before the planning board and or city commission, depending on what happens with appeals, etc., etc. But we'll see how that goes. Airport, I'm not going to touch that one. That's the apartment complex that's trying to build close to the airport. One-stop shop. Right across from City Hall, the backside of City Hall on Second Street, the city is building what we call a one-stop shop, for lack of a better name right now. I'm sure we'll probably name it the Ken Schilling, Development Services Building, or something like that, but. Yes. He's always wanted something named after him, so. So this is what it's called. It's a one-stop shop. If you are an applicant, whether you are doing something to your house, or doing something to your condo, or doing something, or developing quick blocks 1 and 9, you would be able to go into one area. You're going to meet with permitting, building services, utilities, engineering, parks and rec, everyone who you would normally come to City Hall, and then you go up to 12th Street, then you come back to City Hall, then you go back to 12th Street. Everyone is going to be situated in one building, and you will be able to touch them once. And so you put your application in, whether you do it electronically online, or whether you still like paper and you want to come in, you will be able to submit everything there and get everything there at once. You'll be able to pay your utility bills, possibly your parking tickets, so please keep getting those parking tickets. That helps pay, some, anyways. I didn't say that. Somebody's gonna go out there and say that Marlon said, parking tickets pays salary. But seriously, it's a one-stop shop, all elements of anything that you do that has the development term in it, you'll be able to go there and be able to do all the transactions. Hotel houses, citywide. For those of you who saw the discussion regarding the keys and hotel houses, a lot of commissioners are saying, okay, we need something similar in the downtown and on the land side of the bay. So we're going to be looking at how we implement some of those restrictions. It's working very well over in Leo Key. I can't remember when last I heard a complaint about a hotel house, whether they're parking or noise or the tenants are misbehaving. So we have some really good restrictions. We have some code enforcement individuals that go out and check to make sure that they're complying with not only the state standards, but our standards. And I will tell you, I have not. I was at the Liaison Residents Association meeting this weekend, and I asked them, how many of you all have filed a complaint recently or heard any issues? Not a person raised their hand. So I guess it's working. And again, that's a testament to not only the residents who came out and say, hey, this is a problem, but the commissioners are listening and saying, okay, let's put some parameters, but understanding that these things are probably going to happen all over the city. US Recycling, that's right up the road. A lot of complaints from the Central Coconut residents, and I'll just touch on that as it borders on downtown, about US Recycling, the noise again, in terms of the crushing of the concrete, crushing of materials. Again, peaceful enjoyment of your neighborhood, and very good, willing owner of the property has said, you know what, we hear you, city, we hear you. Commissioner Hancock was a huge flag bearer of the commission understanding the neighborhood's concerns, and basically did a presentation about the whole issue in front of the commission, and the commission said, you know what, we need to do something. And then the property owner came to us and said, you know what, I'm willing to be a good neighbor, I'm willing to change the use of the property from industrial crushing of rock to residential. And so they're working on that right now. It has to go through a comp plan amendment and rezoning to be able to accommodate what that property owner wants to do. Wants to do obviously apartments, wants to get a little bit more density to make it affordable for individuals. So we're working with them on that right now. It's going to take some time. Obviously the neighbors would like it done yesterday, but as you know, things take time. Dining in the streets, quickly. Some of you may have enjoyed during COVID the ability to dine in the little parking spaces that we have, our restaurants that we have downtown. We waived all the fees because of COVID. A lot of individuals could not go into the restaurants because of the fear of COVID. And so we knew that this would be an economic impact to the restaurants in terms of helping them survive. And so a number of restaurants took advantage of our willingness to allow them to put tables and chairs in the parking spaces free of charge and to be able to use it. But when something is very good, you want more. And so these, when it was done in COVID, it was done under my emergency power. By ordinance, there are certain emergency powers that I can execute without the commission's approval. And this was one of them because COVID was an emergency. And so for 2 years, they were allowed to use the dining in the streets. And so my emergency powers can only go so far. I can stretch it a little bit and say, there's a little bit of COVID here and there, so we can continue it. So we notified them, although a lot of restaurants, like everyone else, were saying, we didn't know. We started notifying them back in March of last year that this was coming to an end in December. And lo and behold, many of them came in November saying, "Well, we just got this letter and we didn't know it was ending." And so we had to, again, share with the commission, look at all the emails and the letters that we sent them saying, this is temporary, it's coming to an end, Anyway, the commission decided, okay, Mr. Brown, let's have the attorney look at this because his position is that the temporary use of the right-of-way is something that the commission can approve, but when someone wants the permanent use of the right-of-way, which is depriving the public of the use of those spaces, it's probably not legal. And so he said, give me some opportunities because these restaurants said, hey, it's being done in all these other cities, across the nation, but then we're Florida, and Florida is sometimes unique. And so, the thing said, I will see what we have in Florida, and then I'll come back and let you know. But in the meantime, Mr. Brown, give them an additional 3-month extension. So we have an extension until March 31st. It will give us enough time for the attorney to come back to report on what his findings are and whether we can do this or not do this. We'll make a determination then. But in the meantime, the number of restaurants that are using it have diminished a lot. We had like about, I think, probably 27 to 37 restaurants that were using it citywide. That's now down to 11 or 12. And so what we also did is the commission gave me the ability to also charge them for the use of those spaces. It's about $25 a day per space. And so depending on how much space they're using, and for the next 3 months, you're going to get a bit of revenue for the use of those spaces. And so that has been implemented, and the city attorney is working on that. Supply ordinance. Supply ordinance is another name for individuals who are blocking the sidewalks. When you try to walk downtown, people are laying all across, the sidewalk. You have to walk around them. Sometimes you ask them if you can move, and they get belligerent, etc., etc. But again, it's not targeting any particular group. It's targeting anyone. We have to be careful because of people's, First Amendment rights, etc., and not targeting any particular group. So Commissioner Brody at the time brought to the commission the ability for us to institute what they call a supply ordinance that other cities and communities have been using, whereby you designate a certain area of your city as a no supply zone. So it doesn't preclude you from not sitting in line in other parts of the city, but certain commercial areas, certain areas where transactions occur, it precludes individuals from sitting there. But one of the things the commission said is, look, we have an existing ordinance that speaks to that. Why don't we give that ordinance a chance to see if it's working? Because apparently the police department was not using it the way it was intended to be used. So what we did, we went back and we trained all of our law enforcement officers about how to use the existing ordinance and then start putting it into practice and seeing if that works before coming up with a new ordinance. And so we have to report back to the commission. I saw where staff has now gathered all of the data from the existing ordinance, and we'll be reporting back to the commission as to whether that works or not. One more item related to the downtown Sarasota Condo Member Association and the residents. We're getting ready to take a look at parking and whether somebody can back in into a parking stall or not back into a parking stall. So the commission directed the city attorney to come up with a change in the existing ordinance to allow back-in parking only on surface lots where where you can back in, no angled spaces or angled spaces that are in garages. So it has to be perpendicular to the drive aisle where somebody can easily back in. And so we're going to look at that, and then it gives me the authority to designate what parking lots or surface parking I would like to have back-in parking instituted. The only area that allows back-in parking right now is along Gulfstream. Again, it's angled, but it's angled towards how you can pull out and not, pull out against the traffic, which is not safe. One of the reasons that we have sort of pushed against back-in parking, including law enforcement, in Florida, we only have plates to the back. And we have what we call automatic license plate readers. So if you for some reason pass your time limit or you have not paid you can easily, read the license plate without getting out. But, if they do back in parking, my enforcement staff will be getting a bit of exercise. They have to walk out and take a look at the tag in the back. We also do expired tags. That is part of the element of parking enforcement. And so when people back in, you can't tell whether it's an expired tag or stolen tag or something. So, let me see what else would be good for. Okay, I think that is about all I have related to the downtown and some of the things that we'll be touching base with the commission on and get some direction as to whether they yay or nay and all in favor and who not in favor. So I'm going to open it up. I think that's like 15 minutes. Anything in particular you want me to touch on?
No, and as our normal practice, it'll be board members first asking questions. So Roger, take it away.
Well, I just help when I did pay my parking ticket, but the elevators didn't work.
Oh, so you've been in the elevators for how long you took to get back to your car?
No, well, I'm just curious, since I had to park on the 5th floor.
Yeah. So department, to Roger's question, we have 2 elevators in the Palm Avenue garage. They're not working. Unfortunately, what happened is the current vendor who is responsible for those elevators just was not responsive, so we decided to cut bait with that vendor. Obviously, we had to, and when I say they weren't responsive, we'll call them, and they would come out, they would take a look at it, they would say, okay, the part is on order, and we just felt very frustrated by an elevator company that is supposed to be responsible for maintenance, can't maintain the elevators that we have. So we decided to cut bait with them, decided to go back out and get a vendor. That takes some time. They'll have to come inspect, get the parts. And so what we've offered, Roger, if you're parking there, we put up some signs, we will shuttle you from the 5th floor so you don't have to be late and get a ticket down to the bottom floor. But we expect hopefully Wednesday, that's the day, the vendor that we selected is supposed to take a look at the elevators and let us know how quickly they can get it repaired.
Okay, Patrick.
Yes, Mr. Brown. First of all, last year when you spoke to us, there was a couple items came up and I wanted to revisit that really quickly. One had to do with clearance of sidewalks, and we had commented how scaffolding done when you have sky rises in New York, and we should be able to do it here. And from what I've seen, it's been done very well here. I think the 1900 block north of Main Street, nice scaffolding there. You can walk safely there. And many areas in Rosemary, it's been done, and so that's a thank you. Hopefully we keep it up. I know there's some new things going in our downtown area, right on Fruitville, Rosemary, Quay. The question is, if a fence goes up, does that mean everything will be done inside the fence, or they can later come on and sequester the sidewalk and not build the scaffolding? So
no,
what's going to be happening going forward, please?
So again, I'm again the champion of making sure that the public and pedestrians always have access everywhere and anywhere is, and so the only way they can fence all the way to the edge of the curb is if there's work to be done on the sidewalk itself, whether it's unsafe or whether it's utility work. But again, once that work is done, we require them to move the fence back and fix the right of way. But if indeed that occurs and it's the entire length of the project, again, we'll make sure that people have the safe ability to cross, to the other side and get around, the construction.
I guess the question would be more whether the department looking at that is prioritizing to look first to scaffolding and only closure after significant review.
Yes, especially downtown.
Okay.
Especially downtown.
And that's important. And the other ones had to do with, green space. And thanks for working with Candy Peterson and others on the roundabout, Gulfstream roundabout, working with FDOT. There was original plans with a lot of palms, and it got changed with a lot of canopy where the sidewalks are going in. And so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Ken?
I have a question about the hotel houses. Does that affect Airbnb rentals?
Yes, as well. So, the
And in
intent,
what way?
yes, so, I mean, Airbnb rentals, we call it hotel houses, but it's really vacation rentals. So Airbnb vacation rentals, we just use hotel houses because of how big they are. They're those big mansions that sleep, 15 and so that's what we call hotel houses. But it's really vacation rentals, Airbnb, whatever, name you want to call it. But again, as you know, in the city, we have a time frame by which those can be rented out. And so they still, even the hotel houses, Airbnb vacation rental, still has to be that 7-day plus in order to be able to rent. And what we do, we have partnered with an organization, everybody knows Granicus, it's the same company that we use for our transmission of our city commission meetings. We use them to actually, they have some type of bot that goes in and actually takes a look at all the listings that people have all over the country and see if anyone is violating that 7-day requirement. And they come back and report to us and we're able to go in and do code enforcement.
What does that 7-day requirement mean? Do they have to rent for at least
Yes,
7 days?
7 days, it's like 7 days and 4 hours, something like that. Has to rent for that. Anyone less than that, they get, you're operating like a hotel and you can get fined.
Oh.
Okay, so are you doing something I should know?
No, I'm not. But I know some others are.
But let us know, because a lot of how we catch these individuals, neighbors can't tell on each other because, and because of the number of cars parked up, they see people coming and going with suitcases, and they say, oh, city, by the way, there's that person's, renting out their grandmother's suite, and, and they're using it like, vacation, true vacation rental. But, again, the city, we are preempted from the new state legislation that allows vacation rentals because we have an ordinance in place by 2014 that says it's a minimum of 7 days plus. If we make any changes, that's why the attorney is very careful about how we make changes because it can throw out our,
By the way, there's somebody using public land to rent without paying rent outside of Selby in the usual spot that I told you about.
Oh, okay.
No,
The tenant
they've been there
back-
since
back-
Christmas. They've been there since
Okay,
Christmas.
Judy?
Yeah, something that I read in the paper, talked about how if a property owner has a homestead exemption, for relief from property taxes increasing, if they then turn one of their accessory dwelling units, if they use that for income, they lose that exemption. Do you want to elaborate
Yes,
on that?
they-
And how do you tell and what's the problem?
So again, we don't assess the property appraiser that does that, and what they do, the element, that part of the property that's being used for commercial use,
Yeah.
that part becomes liable to pay, not to lose the homestead, exemption, not the entire property. It's only that part. It's kind of like, many of you may have followed the whole Selby discussion with the property appraiser, and they were trying to get non-profit tax exempt, but they had a private entity running a restaurant making a profit. And so what the legislature determined was, and the courts, was that just that element was subjected to pay the higher property tax. And so, so people have to be careful. I know there's a fight somewhere happening right now on that city.
Yeah.
Marlon, on the block 19 Quay
Yes.
matter, which you touched on, a condominium, there'll be a mass the size of the view with a proposal to essentially build a condo over the road. I was surprised, we were surprised to see the city commission in effect overrule the city attorney's recommendation.
So wait, so David, when we overruled my recommendation, it's okay? Yeah.
But I personally felt Mr. Fournier's memo, and I hope there's no test, was incredibly thorough, discussion for an hour and a half. he felt it was to best protect the public's interest to input. It gives the appearance of the applicant kind of cherry picking and kind of biting off pieces of something. And we all know the View or the Embassy Suites, Derek, to name a few, that we all look back and say, some would say those are pretty uninformed, projects. Can you help us understand why the commission, or what was the thinking behind this? Because it's just very perplexing. Let me just say, members of the BASO who are buying there, they've got a Facebook group, and they're new to the neighborhood, and they're saying, what the hell is going on with this? How can this happen? Can you enlighten us?
Yeah. So this all started, this is a conundrum. So this all started when, we got the first application for 109. When they submitted it, and again, staff reviews it. Now, if some of you recall, any site plan that is on the Quay property has to go to the planning board and the planning board only. But staff still reviews it and makes a determination as to whether it goes to the, what goes to the planning board or not. So they actually try to revise the general development plan to add some elements and change some elements in there. Our development services director said, whoa, these are not minor, these are major, and as such, since the general development plan was adopted by the commission and planning board, it has to go to the planning board. They said, whoa, they didn't want to take that chance, and so they looked at other ways to get around that. And one was, since there was a development agreement that went together with the general development plan. So the general development plan is like a site plan. The development agreement is, okay, here's how we will develop the general development plan. And so so they want a main development agreement plan to remove, building over roads as a major revision to the general. So they don't need a site plan to do that because, we have development agreements that come before the commission without a site plan all the time. They don't need, but the attorney felt that just to educate not only the planning board and city commission, but the community about what this is all about, since they had submitted a site plan as part of the original development plan, that all of those things should go together. And that's what, he was recommending. But again, it didn't have to. He just felt it was, in the best interest of the community to put all together, but the commission decided that, okay.
But there is no obligation to this development application amendment. There's no.
The planning board can turn it down, the city commission can turn it down. And again, they still have the site plan to submit, can get turned down and appeal to the city commission. They can get, and again, this can go all the way to circuit court. And right now, remember too that there is also a lawsuit that's being heard by the courts right now as to the air rights and whether Greenpoint, which is the owner of the quay, can sell the air rights to a private entity without the acquiescence of the residents that are already living there. And so that is, Quay Blocks 109 LLC tried to get that element of it dismissed in the court, and the judge said, no, I have seen enough here that warrants a trial on, on the ownership of the air rights and whether that could be,
Yeah, no, I understand, and I'm just a bit mystified that Mr. Fournier's advice, I mean, it's not.
It just happened 2 or 3 meetings ago with the airport. That's why we mediation with the airport, with the Avington, he advised the commission not necessarily not to approve it, but to hold off until all of the legal issues on the, that apartment complex at the airport was, but the commission said no, move forward.
Okay, thank you. Just one
Real quick follow-up. I mean, the issue in this case here, the commission voted on Monday, was to not approve the fair and balanced plan that Mr. Fournier put forward, but the imbalanced one that favors one developer over all the prior block developers who all came in with their plans according to the general development plan. And secondly, the property owners, us residents who live within 500 feet of the Quay development, would have had the opportunity to present to the planning board information in 5 minutes, so we don't get into the 3 minutes public, and as affected parties be able to question the applicant and staff. That is the property rights that we would have had. We would still have that when it comes to the site plan, but we would not have that before the planning board or commission makes a decision on the legislative thing to change it. That was the rights that Warnie was trying to protect. No, I mean, the planning board, he was trying to protect that citizens' rights, and that's what the commission gave up.
I'm thinking we're pretty much out of time here. Is there any burning last questions from board members? If not, Marlon.
As usual, thank you very much, and
Any questions from the audience?
I will see based on my presentation if I'm invited back next year.
You have a couple, maybe member reps here.
Yes.
Any member rep, just Victor.
I have a question about the roundabout at Boulevard of the Arts and Tamiami Trail. When the master plan was drawn for this organization, the master plan included a roundabout there. As a matter of fact, it was promised by the Bay Conservatory because of the complaints of numerous people that Boulevard of the Arts was going to be a pretty bad place because it was a primary entrance. There are pictures of the September, and I guess it was the 19th meeting in 1919 when everybody is standing there showing these two roundabouts. To the best of my knowledge, the two roundabouts are still part of the master plan. There's supposed to be a roundabout at Boulevard of the Arts. Now we're learning that it's not there anymore.
Correct.
We have no idea how it was removed. We have no idea what will come in place in view of the fact that both BLVD plans a 10,000 square foot restaurant. We know that the Modern may also be doing that. We know that Park One extends and has plans for extensive commercial groups. We know the Conservancy plans to bring as many people across that intersection as they possibly can. And we know that you are developing Boulevard of the Arts all the way through to Rosemary and Rosemary District as one of the main travel points with professional offices, fun and good times and parks. Now, I happen to have a disability, and I've almost been hit twice trying to cross that road with this present situation. I know other people who don't have disabilities that have the same problem. So tell me, you all have said, as has FDOT, that a roundabout is the safest way to move people across this place. So how are we going to do that?
We're not going to do it. We don't have the right of way to do it. The boulevard is at one corner. The Indigo Hotel is at one corner. Unless we take all the land from the garden club, which I will tell you, the rest of this community will be in an uproar. We tried to negotiate with the Quay to give us the land, and they wanted not only my firstborn, my secondborn, they wanted a huge. This community, what they were asking for, would go berserk. They wanted additional height, okay, additional density, okay. Now we can go to eminent domain and take their land from them, but you'll be paying a whole bunch of money more than the city or state would want to pay.
Mr. Brown.
So I hear you, but when you have to take a look at things in terms of what's best for the community, in terms of from a fiscal situation, and what you have to give up, you have to make a really informed decision. Now we are going to fix that intersection. We are going to make it as safe as possible. We are also working with the Bay Park on having some type of crossover over 41, and so all of those things would be taken a look at to make up for not having that roundabout as well.
Okay. All right, Jim, just real quick.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I am one of those people who misstated your position on the Van Way zone. For that, I publicly apologize.
Great. Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Marlon.
Good.